Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Montgomery County Legislature. We're going to open up the Economic Development and Planning Committee. First thing on the agenda, discussion. Does anyone in this committee have anything to discuss? Hearing none, we'll move right on to the resolution. Resolutions. First resolution is a resolution supporting the Montgomery County Consolidated Funding Application, Chuckton on the Creek Trail Extension Plan. I need a sponsor. Legislator Wilson, second. Legislator Pep, discussion. Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Moving on to the full legislature. Second resolution is a resolution supporting the Montgomery County Consolidated Funding Application, Canajoharie Creek Trail and Public Park. I need a sponsor.
I'll sponsor.
Legislator Headville, second. Legislator Kowalczyk, discussion. Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Moving on to the full legislature. Anything else under other? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kelly and Kowalczyk.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Health and Human Services Committee at 6:01 p.m. This is a meeting of the whole. First on the agenda is discussion. Hearing none, we'll move on to the one and only resolution tonight, and that is a resolution accepting additional American Rescue Plan Act funding. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Wilson and Legislator Pep. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That moves on to the full board. Anything under other? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn. Legislator Kelly and Legislator Pep. 6:02.
Okay, we'll call the Personnel Committee to order. Privilege of the floor. Anyone have anything? If not, we have a resolution approving the retirement days credited monthly for part-time and full-time elected officials and appointed officials. Pat, you've been working on this, correct?
Yes, along with the personnel officer.
Okay. Would you like to explain what's going on?
Sure. So for appointed and elected officials, we're not in a time-keeping system. In order for them to get retirement credit, they must report and prepare their calendars, which is generally a 3-month period of time in which they itemize all their responsibilities. And from that, a calculation is done for eligible duties that are there to determine what retirement credit they'll get. So through this, Pat has been working and sent out emails and reminders to individuals who fall into this category. And from that, this resolution resulted for those that have responded. This information will go to New York State Retirement for us to give the proper credit to. And for those that haven't responded, their retirement credit will likely be stopped.
What's on? Sure. Do you want a copy of it? Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is. I wasn't able to open it either.
Neither was I.
It's the one with the.
Yeah, I couldn't open
I have copies if you would like.
So everybody that is required to do a calendar should show up by that report. And for those that did not respond, they see the 0 and see it from there. There should be nothing indicated there, so that would be an indication to the retirement system that activities was missing. Unless we see something that needs to be excused. Oh, so that would be the indication.
Mr. Chairman, Nicole, what is the, I know we're in the throes of doing this the past 3 months ourselves, perhaps recreating some of the past. But there's one line in this thing threw me, which is standard workday for part-time elected and appointed positions. Now, we're part-time elected positions. It's 6 hours a day, and we know we're not that.
That's correct.
So-
The minimum is 6 hours for the retirement system.
Okay.
So it's no more, it's no less than 6 hours, no more than 8 hours.
So the fact that we're putting down 2 hours for a meeting or whatever on X day
Yeah, so you're not actually getting calculated, you're not getting 6 hours, the whole calculation is based on a 6-hour.
Oh, okay, I got it, yeah, okay. Say no more, thanks.
Nicole, weren't those hours set by the legislature?
It was in accordance with, we couldn't set anything lower because that's what's in the statute.
Got a typo on appointed officials.
I have a typo.
Any other discussion? All in favor of send it to full board?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion.
Oh, I'll second.
Anything under other? If not, motion to adjourn? Kelly and Wilson.
Okay, I'd like to call the Education and Government Committee meeting to order at 6:05. Remind it's a committee of the whole. Any items for discussion prior to the resolutions? Hearing none, and we will have an add-on that you were made aware of and are in possession of. But our first resolution is authorizing the county executive to sign agreement, continuation of CLEO agreement between the county of Montgomery and the counties of Fulton and Schoharie. Do I have a sponsor? Chairman Sweet, second Legislator Kowalczyk. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Our second resolution, directing county attorney to file deeds. I'll sponsor that. Do we have a second? Legislator Wilson. Discussion. Pretty self-explanatory. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. And our add-on resolution is a resolution setting the date of the public hearing on FMCC's proposed 24-25 operating budget. I'll sponsor that. Do I have a second? Chairman Sweet. And Greg Truckenmiller is here to talk to us about the budget. Greg?
Thank you, sir. And thank you for adding me on at the last minute. The budget materials were distributed to you. Our proposed budget for the upcoming year is a slight 1.8% increase over the prior year. In the budget summary that you have, which is the second document, the first document is an important document that talks about the economic value of FMCC. But the second document actually gives you some information about where we have been with enrollment, where our expenses break down, what our revenue looks like. As we've talked about recently, state aid for community colleges remains flat for feels like forever, which really represents a cut in funding from the state because our expenses continue to rise, but they hold the level of funding at 2010 levels. So we have not seen a significant increase in FTE funding from the state. We've continued to make modest increases in tuition. We took a break during COVID when we had federal aid to help us with that. So recognize that the students already carry the majority of the burden for our budget. They fund about 52% of our budget. The state funds, that's broken down on page 7. The state funds about 28% of our budget, and the counties make up the rest because you get to include any of our fund balance, including your contributions and any chargeback revenue that counts as the local share. So that's how our budget is made up. We have been responsible stewards of our fund balance. We've been keeping it at a pretty healthy level just to handle the challenges that we've had with flat state aid and trying to keep that in mind as our expenses continue to rise. We've addressed the size of our institution as our enrollment has shrunk over the last few years. We've also made adjustments in our staffing. So we're a pretty lean operation right now. Last year, you generously increased your sponsor aid to us for the first time in 6 years, you and Fulton County. We are asking you to do so again this year at a more modest level. We're asking you to increase your contribution by $50,000 this year. So we have also been relying much more on grant revenue than we have in the past, and we've continued to bring in over $2.5 million worth of grant revenue per year to help offset some of the additional expenses. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The last page of that budget summary is our 3-year financial plan, which we started doing about almost 20 years ago. We obviously make adjustments to it every year, but we like to give you a look ahead. So what we're proposing to you tonight is reflective of what our plan really showed last year. So we have been able to stick to the plan that we put together. And then the other document, I mentioned this to you at a previous meeting, but this is a summary of, the executive summary of the economic impact that Fulton Montgomery makes on the two-county region. And, obviously that it's there to remind you of how important the college is. But I'm going to pause there because we do have another month where we can talk more in detail, but I'm happy to answer questions that you may have tonight.
Legislator Headwell.
What's the enrollment at for this coming year?
Right now, we're projecting that enrollment will be up about 4% over the previous year. So last year, we ended around 1,030 FTE, and we're projecting about a 4% increase. So that's FTE, not headcount. Headcount's deceiving because a large part of our headcount is dual enrollment, which is 1/3 pay. So FTE is a better measure of where we're at financially.
Set up. Any other questions? All right. All in favor of moving this to the full meeting next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. And motion to adjourn, Legislator Kelly, Chairman Sweet at 6:12.
That's me. So call the Public Safety Committee meeting together at 6:13. Any discussion? No? Moving along to the resolutions. Resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Catalyst for probation. Any discussion?
Sponsor.
Oh, so sponsored by Maria Kowalczyk. Legislator Kowalczyk, sorry. Legislator Pep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Move to the full board. Second resolution is resolution amending the 2024 operating budget, statewide expansion of the Hurl Herring contract, renovations to the county facility by the public defender. Any discussion?
Sponsor.
Any sponsors? Chairman Sweet, second. Chairman Pep, or I'm sorry, Legislator Pep. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
Do you have a discussion?
Move to the full board.
Hold on. Martin has it.
I'm sorry, Martin.
What do we decide to use this for?
This is a good question. Here he
Is
is.
that the elevator on the old courthouse?
We had this money that was offered to us by the real estate office of Indigent Legal Services. This money can only be used for infrastructure. It can't be used for anything else but that. So they inquired whether we might be able to utilize this money to enhance the facilities of the public defender office. I don't know if any of you have been up to our office. It's pretty cramped. We really have kind of outgrown it. And so we went through the old courthouse with Eric Mead and a woman from ILS. And they plan was submitted to the state, and they're agreeable to what was proposed. And so if to make improvements to the old courthouse. So, and that is,
Yeah.
Good. Let's take Kevin.
Well, yeah, I just, we visited this, Bill, a couple months ago, right?
well.
And it was like, we were under a gun, we had to get it done, blah, 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 it was gonna
Matching
expire, elevator, blah, blah, blah. And then it looked like it died a slow death. Now we get a little extension, the money's still out there. How is it being planned to be used through this plan that they came in?
What's different about this is that when it was first planned and considered, I guess it was deemed that we're gonna be essential to have an elevator. But after talking with Eric Mead and discussing what would be acceptable to us, we don't need an elevator. We used to be in the old courthouse, and anytime I had to meet with a client or somebody that couldn't make it up the stairs, I went downstairs, it wasn't a problem. So we talked with Eric Mead about it, and the county engineer, one of the engineers was over there with Eric Mead, and he came up with an idea that there would be a flex office downstairs that we could use if need be, if we had to go down there. I mean, we told him that I didn't know if that would be necessary, but he suggested that, that was something that they could do. So, I mean, we could use this office space. So this is a revision of the first plan that we won't be using this money to put into an elevator. There's enough money for it. But what the plan is to renovate the upstairs so that we could move into the upstairs, which would free up space at the gym. I'm sure that somebody over there could use that space.
So right now you have like a conceptual estimate of what, or a conceptual set of plans as to what they want to do with this money. Is there a budget related to it where it shows how it's going to total up to the 1.2 and how much is going for what phase of it, et cetera, et cetera?
So it's not actually 1.2, it's about, from my understanding, it's about 950,000.
Okay, well, then the 950,
And
yeah.
it's been submitted to the state. Ken, were you involved in that?
In the very beginning.
Very beginning. So that was submitted to the state, engineer looked at it, Eric Mead has been involved in it. They approved it, and the condition is that the money has to be expended by March of next year.
Yes, yep. Yeah, no, I think we're all aware of that. I just want to get an idea, if you had it in your mind's eye, what's going to be done to the building for this sum of money.
Okay, upstairs, they're gonna put in, remodel the bathrooms upstairs. Men and women's are probably gonna be redone. They're gonna put in some walls and, I don't know if they're gonna put it on the floor. I mean, I went through with Eric and listened to what they were proposing, but they're gonna
Okay.
do renovation. I mean,
He would have more answers on that, Eric, than you.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chairman.
And you might not know, but what are the plans for where you are now?
I don't know there are any. I initially discussed this with Matt going back, so, I don't know what ideas he had about what would be done at the jail. But, we have, it's a nice space that we have, it's just, we've kind of outgrown it. And, so I don't know what the plan is.
Do you know how many employees you've grown since the new public safety wing was put on
How many employees?
under your department? Like, how did you
Well, here,
outgrow it? Because I don't see us doubling,
well, we
tripling
have,
your staff or
we have
subcontracting.
three full-time public defenders, okay? But there is nowhere in that office that they can use office space. It's just, we have 3 secretaries and me, and just no other room. We've got files stacked everywhere. So they go in there once in a while, but it's, they don't have a permanent space, and the New York State thinks that they should have their own office. So, I mean, look, the money's being offered to redo this courthouse, renovate it. We could use the space, but I don't know what to say that,
And it's not an extension, right? What, in the beginning, wasn't it always till?
March, yeah.
It was March, you're right, I mean, we didn't know we can get it done in enough time.
Yeah. Yeah.
they wanted to know, in order to get the extension, ILS needed to know by March of this year whether we had an acceptable plan. So that was submitted to them, they approved it. The condition is it should be utilized by the end of, by March of next year.
Is there a way we could get a copy of what we're submitting for?
Well, my opinion is, we're seeing movement of departments here, there, everything, and I've spoken to the executive about formulating a committee to assess the buildings and space in the buildings and who needs space and who doesn't need space. I'm not opposed to, accepting this, or, getting this money, but is this the best space for this? Or is there another place that we can do this? I think we're kind of just, again, willy-nilly, say, oh, we've got room here, let's move into it. I think we need a plan going forward with the space that we have that may be available. Departments that may not need space that they are no longer using. I would like to see something, go through a committee, so we have a better idea of what space we have in the county.
Brian, completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, I would love to see the money, but I'm not 100% sure that the plan of where we're going to do with this project is the correct way to, and it might be. I mean, once we sit down and talk about it, it might be, but I think we need to look at the whole picture of everybody that's looking to move, everyone that's looking for something, and see at that point, and I'm sure if the public defender's office needs space, that's something that needs to be done, but I'm just not sure we're the right place to do it. And again, how much space he actually needs or is needed, so. Yeah.
Well, a lot of this was discussed with Matt, so we got to change. I think that, he was wanted to, I don't put words in his mouth, he's not here, but I think he had pumped about getting the courthouse we had. I mean, it's a really nice building, but it does need work. So it just wouldn't be suitable right now for us.
So, there's a lot of discussion about a lot of things, so let's just clarify a couple things. So, one of the first things that I found in the past 4 weeks is that we've got a real problem with space in the county. Although we've created new space by moving DPW out of that space, social services out of this space, as soon as we free up space, someone raises their hand and says, well, I could use some more space. So it's become apparent to me that what we need to do is we have to have a plan. The plan is twofold. One, you're using up a lot of space in storage and file cabinets that are taking up whole offices, okay? And, in the real estate world, you're paying rent on every square foot that you use, and you're not getting any return. The space that we have in the county, it can be overwhelming for us to just go in and say, okay, this is our plan, we're going to do this. So I did talk to the chair, and we're talking about having discussions about what to do with space. Because we have now this whole bottom floor over here, on the other side of the hallway that's going to be available. We've talked for years, since I've been here 9 years, we've talked about the old courthouse. The courthouse has had discussion about moving these chambers over there. There's all sorts of things. So the discussion here is to get your flavor for what you expect to happen with the courthouse right now. There are plans that were developed months ago that show the reconstruction, if you will, over at the courthouse on the second floor, and where they're going to add 2 new offices, not by building out, but building within. remodeling the bathrooms, or moving the bathrooms, which are not working on the second floor and haven't worked in years, over by where Ken's old office was, in that general area, right? Basically, I think where Vinnie's desk used to be, if you're familiar where Vinnie used to sit. But we have to start thinking strategically about the space, because we're just, it's like buying an old car and wasting money by putting a stereo in it. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm not advising against what Bill is saying. I'm saying let's move forward with a strategic plan, but in this case, we have to make some decisions quickly if we want to take advantage of the $932,000 or $950,000 that's available. We've had these conversations going back when I was a legislator between us for a long time. So does that kind of clarify where we are?
I have an additional question for you.
Sure.
One of the concerns we had last time was that the old courthouse was deemed a historic building and there could not be any restoration or alterations to it. Does that include the inside too, or was that just the
My
outside?
understanding is that doesn't affect the inside. It's usually when you affect the architecture of the building.
Okay, because I know you had said the plans had been approved, but they're approved by the state, by who approved the plans?
Well, I don't remember the name of the engineer. It was an engineer
Okay.
who went through it, and I thought he thought it would be workable, and we talked to Eric, and the state of New York, ILS, has given us the money as far as they're concerned. They were good with that. I mean, not the Historical
Right.
Preservation Society, I don't, but, yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Can we see the plan?
Yep.
And how long do we have to apply for this? I mean, is there, we can apply at any time? So
I think
postponing
it's
it?
already been applied for, that's why we got the grant.
The money has to be spent by next March.
So we have the money, or we have the grant?
You have the
Or you can just bring it
availability,
up.
my understanding is you have the availability of the money up to 1.2.
It's $950,000, not 1.2.
Well, this says 1.2. This resolution says 1.2 million.
Yeah, it was initially told to us by ILS that they had 1.2. This was going back when it first got going. I sent an email to Matt. I said we have 1.2 million, but when the numbers were crunched, we had submitted requests for vouchers that had to come out of this grant, so it was $200,000+ that we had to be reimbursed out of that grant. So what's left is not 1.2, it's something under 1 million.
So can you get the clerk the actual dollar amount so that we can reflect it in the resolution?
Yes.
I believe last time, we were concerned about the timeline too, weren't we? Whether we could get it done in time, so.
Well, that's when they were gonna add
An elevator.
elevator in the back, and
To
it
the
was a lot more
outside, yeah.
involved with.
Did Eric give you a timeline? Does he think this is doable in this timeline?
Yeah, I talked to Eric, and he sees that it is, because it's only the addition of 2 offices and the bathrooms. And there's no guarantees, of course, when you get to that point. The risk is that you do it, and you're not done.
And I would also feel more comfortable that, like Maria asked, that we are sure that even on the interior, it doesn't have to go through historical. Because you get into the project and they come and say, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Stop.
And then we're forced to finish it with our own funds because the clock expired.
Yep.
So I guess from what we're hearing is that we would like to see what more of the design, and we'd like to be able to confirm that that's true about the courthouse not being able to be constructed. So can we make a motion to table this?
I think you can go through to the full board.
And then we can discuss it next
We
week
can
a little
discuss it
further in
next week.
detail? Okay. Any further discussion? For the sponsor?
You have sponsor.
You already got it? Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Abstained? Move to the full board. Last resolution is a resolution amending the 2024 operating budget, accepting additional Stop DWI High Visibility Engagement Campaign Crackdown funds. Any discussion? Sponsor, Chair, Legislator Kelly, Legislator Pep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Move to the full board. Motion to adjourn, Legislator Kelly and Kowalczyk.
Budget and Finance Committee to order at 6:30. Discussion. Chair?
Bob, we met last month, we had a little budget session, and we, as a group, gave you some guidance onto, information that we were looking for the upcoming budget. Just wondering how you're progressing with what we're.
Preliminary right now, Sean and I are setting up, some discussions. We're gonna meet tomorrow after our meeting with the auditor and set up a timeline and your request that you have.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll move right into our first item. Bill from Montgomery is here to discuss the 2022 audit.
Good evening. I'm Joe Hero. I'm a principal. I oversee the audit. Alan Walther is the partner. Unfortunately, he's out of town tonight. I've been involved, I think, 2 or 3 years now. So since we're doing 2022, I'm just going to do a high level and tell you about, we've moved into 23, but I'll start. I know you have 2 packets there. One of them is, 60 pages long. The other one is shorter. And in the back of that single audit, the Uniform Guidance Report on page 9, there's a summary of auditor's results. I'll just go through that. The governmental activities opinion is adverse. It's not horrible. It's just because you do not depreciate your capital assets. To have that done, you'd have to have a study done. They'd have to go through the county, identify all your assets, depreciate them. It would be quite the undertaking. And also, you don't do an OPEB liability. That's your other post-employment benefit liabilities. That is your health insurance for retirees, and that is a GASB 75. Again, if you wanted to have that done, you'd have to hire an actuary. You would send them the payroll file of all your employees, and they would calculate what your liability would be. But since you don't have that, that's your full GAAP financial statements, if you will. The fund financial statements that you all are probably more familiar with, general fund, capital projects fund, all your other non-major funds, those opinions are unmodified. That's the highest level of assurance we can give. So those are all fine. There's also an internal control over financial reporting. In that report, I'm sure you saw there's a material weakness. 2 of them actually, that has to do with the DSS receivable balance. They were not being reconciled. I think it's been going on for 2, maybe 3 years. We're not reconciling the claims to the amounts that are received in a timely basis. So it takes quite some time to get that schedule, which is why 22 was so late, to get that schedule to tie out to the trial balance. That also affects the CFA, which is the other material weakness. But I will just say we are well into field work for 2023. You hired our firm, our consulting arm, if you will, to help figure out that DSS issue, and I believe that has been alleviated now. So in 23, our goal is to get the audit done and submit it to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. It's due September 30th. So that's our goal, is to get you guys back on track and get that filed by the 30th of September. That's it, unless there's any questions or if you want to go into detail about anything.
DSS is on track.
There's not a question.
The peanut
Well, that's good to
gallery.
hear. Good.
Thank you.
And we'll schedule for 2023.
We've got a lot of field work done already, so the
To
goal.
present.
Oh, to present, yeah, absolutely, yeah, let's do it,
Longer.
yes, yeah, no, let's do that. If we file by the 30th, October.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, first is a resolution correcting 2024 town and county tax rolls, town of Charleston. Is there a sponsor? Legislator Wilson, second by Legislator Majewski. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried. And next is approval of abstract of audited claims. It's not there yet, they were having computer issues, but it'll be attached for next week's, sponsored by Legislator Pett, second by Legislator Walchuk. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried. Anything under other? Hearing none, motion to adjourn. Legislator Walchuk, to adjourn.